Yep. There we go. All right, we're live. Here we are, HeadBonger's Bowl, episode number 6. How you doing tonight, Steve?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself, Cariboo?
Oh, doing really well. It's a fine Sunday night. Seems like a really good time to get together and let's bullshit about some metal tonight. So
Yeah, let's do that.
So
Okay.
I was thinking, let's do the top 5 list. Was a lot of fun last week. When we went through that and just like, it doesn't necessarily even have to be the top 5. Like just pick 5 bands that you really love, and you didn't even pick your top 5. Really, you left out 2 of your very, very most, and then so let's
Yeah. I and that's kind of where I see one of the things that I see about the Headbongers Bowl is like spreading it around to like really dive into metal, and like not just our favorite stuff, but like dive into it.
yeah.
And that's why, I left 2 of my favorite bands off of my list, and like they're like 2 of my favorite bands, like not just metal bands, not just European metal bands. Iron Maiden is on my top 3 list for all-time favorite music now,
Yeah.
but that's if I did that, I'd be talking about Iron Maiden every week, which
Yep.
they show up twice tonight. So
So yeah, that's pretty damn good then, right? So
yeah, exactly.
yeah. Yeah, no, I like it that it's that the way it's both. Well, I did pick a couple easy ones, but there's a couple other ones that I purposely avoided because it's like you for whatever reason. So I like that we're kind of both want to get into the other stuff, that a little lesser known stuff that people may or may not know about, or just a band where they're just like, oh shit, yeah, I forgot about them. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, I talk a lot about a band like Halloween because I feel like they're definitely an underrated group in and amongst a lot of what I listen to, you know?
yep.
And I feel like a band like Cadaver isn't talked about much. They're because they're younger guys, they're not getting that same attention that a lot of the other older bands are.
Yep, absolutely. Or they fall into a specific genre that just doesn't get a lot of attention for whatever their reasons, can also be another one. Um, Earlier today, I got to listen to the new Black Label Society album. Usually this is something that, because they are one of my 4 favorite bands of all time. I'd normally jump on that like the minute it came out, but I was like, I had to wait until I actually had time to listen to it because
Right.
I'm hard to impress with music. Like there's a lot of music that's just, yeah, that's good. On a number 5, 1 to 5 list, their ranking, I can't remember the last time I saw an album that I would give a full 5 stars. A lot of 3s, even 4s would be hard to come by for me. I give the new BLS after just an original listen, I give it a 3. It's great to hear Zach shredding again. It's got a lot of the heavy stuff and a lot of the real melodies, and I really like his singing voice when he gets into the mellow stuff.
Right.
He actually carries really well, in my opinion. So I got to give it but there's just nothing that really grabbed my attention and said, yes, that is the song right there.
Right.
So
Right.
for that reason right there, it doesn't get to be a 4. Although there was at least 2 or 3 songs on it where it was like, okay, I had to go back and actually look at what song that was so I could put in the memory bank for later. Guess what? That didn't happen. I've forgotten. I've been doing dabs and smoking weed pretty heavy steady since then. But the new BLS album, definitely worth a listen to. And I'm glad I've been able to start these last 2 shows off with having reviewed an album from a band that I love. Last week, I got to talk a little bit about the new Exodus. And, BLS.
I need to check both of those out too, actually, because the Black Label Society I've known about for a couple weeks now, or at least like I saw an interview with Zach Wilde shortly before it came out, so I know it's been out for like a little bit. And the Exodus album I need to listen to, and I think I'm gonna listen to both of those albums live on Morning Metal this week at some point. I'm gonna start doing an album a week that I haven't heard.
I like the sounds of that. I remember, it ended up becoming the 1-to-1 ratio, but we were going to sit there, you, me, Sam, and myself, we were gonna listen to and review the latest Iron Maiden album.
Yeah,
and I would love to be able to do that as a show and then put that up there. There's no way in hell YouTube will let us do that. I'm pretty sure they'll hear the Iron Maiden album and flag us for copyright albums or violations, but it'd be cool to figure out if there's a way we can actually do that. Just give the album a listen to, and at the end of each song, just hit pause and just be like, talk about what we thought of it. I think that'd be
or maybe even just if we all come prepared, we'll just play clips of each song and not the whole album, not the whole song.
Yep.
But speaking of which, that for our lists tonight, our top 5 like life-changing albums, I actually put that album on my list tonight, and the reason is, so when I got into Iron Maiden and made all of that music for 40 years worth of music that I was absorbing and making my own, and now here was the first piece of music that I got to experience in real time for them, that I got to actually, and not only did I get to like experience an Iron Maiden album the day it came out and dive into it, it's also a great album. It's also probably their best thing that they've done in 30 years. It's probably the best since Fear of the Dark, maybe even Seventh Son,
That's a lot to say.
Yeah. I mean, the songs take you on journeys. They're hardly any of them are under 7 minutes long, but they all take you on a journey. They take you through different feelings and emotions. The last song on it, Hell on Earth, does crazy just time changes, tempo changes. They fuck with your sense of like time. It makes you just feel uncomfortable at times. They just really fuck with emotion and push you on these journeys, song after song. Couple songs that don't quite hold the mark as well as some of the others, but that's true for every album, But most of the album, especially the 4 Steve Harris albums, it's the first time Steve Harris wrote a track since I think Virtual 11 was like the last one that he had a song just by him. Maybe Brave New World, but he's been a co-writer. But this album, he's like, no, I'm diving into it, and it's great.
Yeah, it's great. I'm a huge Steve Harris fan. When we're kind of giving our list to each other earlier today, I was actually pretty surprised that the Shinjitsu album was on there just because of how new it was. But that's that just goes to show that it's the power of metal in what you're going on at that point in time in life or whatever. It can change your life for any reason, really.
Yeah. And it was just the experience of just diving into that and the build up to it coming out. They had such a great build up to the release, to the single release, and then sneaking another single out, and then the big album release. They just did a great rollout. So the whole experience just made it all part of that life-changing, like that whole experience just brought that together.
Yeah, that's so if we're gonna get into this, so is that your number 5 album then? Is Shijitsu?
Yeah, that's my number 5.
Fuck, that's okay. So that's a great call. Do you want to switch hit on this, or do you want to kind of run through
yeah, let's go back and forth. You go ahead, give us your number 5.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. So
that way we can
I
go
had
back
a lot
and
of fun kind of switch hitting like we did last week anyways. So my number 5 album, I'm gonna go with Pantera, Cowboys from Hell. Now, this isn't my favorite Pantera album. I would probably give that to Vulgar Display of Power. But this was the one that introduced them to me. Like, there's the name Cowboys from Hell, the artwork on it, them in a bar, kind of looking like maybe they were raising hell and shit like that. And just, it was different at a time in my life where I was just discovering metal, like consciously discovering metal. I've talked before about how I was like a heavy metal fan listening to Ice-T's Body Count without realizing I was listening to metal. I just really liked the way it sounded, right? I just thought I was listening to Ice-T. This is when I was learning about metal, and it was my buddy Justin, his brother John had the CD. And we were listening to this, and the opening track, Cowboys from Hell, is probably my favorite song, possibly of all time. It's one of those songs that it never gets turned down, always gets turned up. And if you try and skip that song, I'll break your fucking fingers. So, you know what I mean? So, and then, but just and for most people, this is like an intro to Dimebag Darrell. They didn't realize that there was 4 or 5 albums before this one. This is where Pantera became kind of, just that shredding,
that metal. Yeah, it's where they went from being more of a glam band to like being and not only becoming more of a metal band, but a defining sound in metal. Like Cowboys from Hell. And I mean, it really is that distinction from Cowboys to Hell into Vulgar Display, where you get Walk. You get like the scream, you get the heavier tones. And I just remember it, and I talk a lot about how back then music was the music you owned, right? Like my buddy had the Pantera CDs, and so I listened to those at his house. But like I remember just being like how is music heavy? How is it this? Like, how are they getting it to be that heavy? And like the guitar tones that they would use that just fucking hit you in the gut. So like, yeah, I absolutely get that.
I remember when I bought that album, that's actually an anniversary edition. I end up like a lot of assholes do pawn it off CDs as a kid, but when I bought that album, my parents sent me down summer after grade 9 to Surrey, BC to go visit Grandma and Grandpa. Tired of me being a little shithead causing trouble around the house. Go visit Grandma and Grandpa. And with the $100 or whatever it was that I had for spending money, I went and bought CDs. That's all I bought. And the Pantera, that was on the list. That is a live album. So I just, like I've said before, like where I come from, Pantera isn't just a metal band. Like they're practically a way of life. So it's just, I think that's I really got to say on that one. And so anybody go through there, just it's kind of funny. Like this is where Phil hasn't quite gotten rid of the whole being a glam metal vocalist or scream metal vocalist kind of. He still has a lot of that in there.
Yeah.
And it's he to me, he was better when he got rid of it. But I still love that, like just throwing it in there, man.
And then he hits it still,
Yeah.
Shout out to chat too, by the way. I just realized that we got some folks in there. We got Prophet and Hurtin and Crispy, and we got Nugcraft. So
Empirine. I see it there.
Yeah. So shout out to all you folks. Thanks for tuning in and hearing us chat about some metal. I guess that brings me to my number 4 then, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So my number 4, I remember my buddy giving me Seasons in the Abyss on cassette, and we were on a train down to visit these girls that we had met, and he gave me Seasons in the Abyss, and I remember on the way there, on the way there, he gave me South of Heaven, and I listened to that, and I'm like, yo, this is really cool. I'm really into this. When I get down there, I traveled all night, visit this girl who ends up breaking up with me at this dance that I don't know anybody at. And I'm on the train ride home, and then he gives me Seasons of the Abyss. And it's just like, that anger that I felt already, and then just hearing that, and then just listening to the songs on that. And the song of Seasons in the Abyss in and of itself, I think is one of the most beautifully crafted metal songs to begin with. You know,
and it was made by Slayer. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, well, and like, I mean, one of the things, here's one of the biggest things about that, why I think that that's my favorite Slayer song, is that it's the only fucking song you hear the bass. You know, in the beginning of that song where it's the bum, 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 like just that. And the solos in that song, they're so fucking beautifully crafted. And it just brings it. And then on top of that, just a good album of when everyone else in the 90s was trying to like dial in that new metal, like that's not new metal, but that sound that, you know, Metallica and Megadeth were working on, that like really like crunchy produced sound. And Slayer was like, no, fuck that. This is our 90s.
Yeah.
You know, they waited another album till they fucked it up.
Oh, dude. Well, to me, the song Expendable Youth, that is the song that turned me into a Slayer fan right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. It's, yeah, to me,
War
just
Ensemble.
the riff. Because I remember my roommate, like even a little while after I'd been listening to Slayer for a while, but like I didn't know their stuff, but he could play a few riffs here and there. And it was watching him play Expendable Youth where I was just like, oh, fuck yeah. Like that was cool. Like, well, one of the first people I knew that could actually play some of the songs I knew. And then the intro to Hell Awaits, he could do that too, which was also, that's another discussion right there, different album altogether. But in my opinion, the greatest intro in metal is Hell Awaits intro.
Well, yeah. I mean, Hell Awaits, I remember sitting in my house blasting that with my big fucking double bass drum set, because like I had two Tama Rockstar Deluxe drum kits that I put together and tuned them so that they just tuned down. And so I remember, you know, with my just running with my feet on those double kick pedals. Fuck that song.
Yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, the song Blood Red, that's another one. Like, just to me, that album was kind of one of the first ones where it showed you like heavy metal. Like I was almost gonna say extreme. Although I shouldn't really necessarily consider Slayer extreme, although maybe for the time that album was. But like how catchy heavy metal could be, a band like Slayer, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about like, you know, you think like the catchy metal was for band like Poison or maybe Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
With the sing-songable, you can sing along with it. It's catchy, you know. And if your parents weren't paying attention to the lyrics, maybe they might almost be able to sing along and tap their toes with it too. But it's Slayer, you know.
Which reminds me, another song that you got to talk about when you talk about Seasons in the Abyss, Skeletons of Society.
Yep.
That slow, like using like really creepy kind of, the vocal harmonies were still kind of talking or screaming, but just like, you know, like and just like the crushing fucking drums of just that boom bah boom bah, like yeah, just fucking Dave Lombardo, like everybody just dialing it back a bit to just give this super crushing fucking amazing tune.
Shout out to the talented Dave Lombardo.
Yeah.
To me, there's like,
at the time, world record holder.
Yeah, there's a huge like gap in like, you think of like metal drummers. You had was it Phil from Motorhead from Overkill with the double bass drum? Phil Taylor, Filthy Animal, or whatever they used to call it from Motorhead. Yeah. I'm kind of flaking out on that. You had like kind of that evolution where, okay, you see the double kick drum going, wow. And then all of a sudden you had like, there's a lot of really good drummers, don't get me wrong, but then you had Dave Lombardo, is just like otherworldly type shit. And then in my opinion, you had to skip forward like another 20 years or whatever to like maybe a Joey Jordison, to where there was like just naturally that talented drummer where
the double kick actually is the first double kick is credited to Judas Priest on the Diamonds and Rust album. That they brought in a studio drummer. Judas Priest was essentially Spinal Tap with drummers until they brought in Scott Travis. But for that album, they brought in a studio drummer who was like, yeah, you want to pay me to do this album? Great. And he did this heavy metal album. They're like, okay, we got to go on tour. He's like, nah, fam, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm a studio guy. You got your drums. I'll be on my way. You'll be on your way. But he has just these amazing double kicks in it. And then other metal people were like, well, shit, that's what we got to do now.
Well, I'm glad it caught on because I just love it. And like, to me, it's like, I find the continual blast beats, yes, they're cool, but they get boring at the same time. But it's just like so many other dimensions that you have. You can open up with your timing, maybe throw a little bit of blast beat, and then just go off on some weird time. All of which I have none of the coordination for or whatever. It looked like a monkey trying to fuck a football, me trying to play the drums. But it is a lot of fun trying. Every once in a while, you can kind of get yourself in a bit of a rhythm.
I've only got a single kick now. You can see the drums behind me.
Yeah. Awesome. Actually, just for speaking of drums, there's was it drums or bass? I can't remember. Like a long time ago, I was bugging you about writing some kind of like 30-second little thing. Did anything ever even happen with that?
Yeah, I've actually got some little shitty recordings that I put together that I'll make sure to send them over. I just keep forgetting to kind of bump them down, and I want to try to add some guitar to it.
We could have a lot.
I actually do have some recordings. Yeah,
that could be a lot of fun, man. We could use it maybe for like an intro thing too. And then I got an idea for because we got like this is a different show, but it is a part of Cariboo Heart TV, absolutely. And Cariboo Heart TV has a Patreon page where people can go to support the show with donations. And for doing shout outs and stuff like that, I thought it might be cool if we were able, if I can sync up the a loop of the song or whatever like that. It's just and we talk about how awesome these people are because, well, really, straight up, honestly, they help keep the show going. It does cost a bit of money to keep things going, so fuck, everything is appreciated, and that's actually going to end up funding the first bit of merch. The way Patreon sits up, at least from what I could see, is everything sits in kind of like an account where they hold it for you and then you just hit a button and say cash me out kind of thing. It's all just sat there. I've never done anything with it.
Oh, cool.
So once we hit about $1,000 Canadian on there, I think I'm going to just go and throw that towards getting like stickers, t-shirts, and all that shit done up for the channel.
Yeah, and if you start doing t-shirts, you can probably find those like, don't they have like print to order places that like, as long as you just have the design, they'll, so if somebody buys it from you, all you're paying, you don't really pay anything out of pocket because you collect from the buyer, then you buy the shirt, or more like the person gets the money and they send you the difference, I think is how it works. And I think my friend Brian, Keystone State Apparel, he might be able to do some of that stuff too because he does his own t-shirts. So if you don't already have someone doing t-shirts, he might be able to help you out.
We've talked to a few people, like Astro Charlie, another kick-ass member of the cannabis community. He's he does a lot of that work. We were talking to him a few months ago about possibly doing that because he can do a lot of that work himself, pressing the shirts and getting them out, I believe. Right. So that could be cool. And then there's a few other people that have offered or mentioned that they might be able to do the same kind of thing. DP's got another friend of our show there where she was doing like what are they called, pop sockets, where you can put them on the back of your phone to hold on to kind of thing, stuff like that, and coffee mugs. So yeah, we'll look into that, but that's what, anyways, that's the first bit of Patreon money is going to go towards merch. Nice. Yeah, but anyway, so to get back to if we had some kind of sound effects, or maybe we could do an intro for the show.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. Another reason for me to sit in front of the computer, spending endless time in front of the computer, dorking out, and but you know, it's enjoyable. I guess is it my turn now for my number four?
You're number four.
All right, we're gonna go with White Zombie, Astro Creep 2000. Now, a lot of people are gonna be like, "What the fuck, that one?" and not Lace Exoristo, and I'm gonna go, yeah, because this to me was when it's also kind of around the Pantera time, was where going from being basically, I listened to a lot of top 40 pop music, whatever's popular at the time, and heavy metal needed to be catchy to go along with it. And this extremely overproduced album that it is definitely catching and checks a lot of those right boxes. The song More Human Than Human, still one of my very favorite albums or songs of all time. Both this version and the one on the Super Sexy Swinging Sounds are like two completely different songs just about. But fucking
it's to me, White Zombie is so funny too, because like their first three albums are garbage. You know, he was doing the noise rock, and like that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's like it is noise metal, and it's like there's a couple tolerable songs on them, but for the most part, it's terrible.
Yeah,
and then let's say I can never remember the name of the album, but the one before Astro Creep,
the one with Thunder Kiss 65 on it, man.
But it's just so fucking good. Oh. That album, start to finish, is just fucking great. My only problem with Astro, and like I can understand, especially if you find Astro Creep first, that's the one you're going to latch on to, because they're very similar. Like there's not a lot of evolution between them. They are almost as if they're a double album. You know, they almost have a double album feel to them because they're so similar in vibe. Whereas so many other metal bands, you can feel a distinct vibe change from album to album, unless you can't. And then they don't tend to have any vibe change, you know, whereas you had this definite evolution in vibe change and then two albums that were just pretty much the same type of sound. But both good albums.
To me, it's funny that you mentioned the if you find the Astro Creep 2000 first, because the way it happened was I actually I first discovered White Zombie on the Beavis and Butthead album, where they had a bunch of stuff, and the song I Am Hell. And at this point, I was not a metalhead, but I was a big fan of Beavis and Butthead, so I had to get it. So while I loved the Anthrax song, and that's probably the song that turned me into an Anthrax fan, I fucking hated the White Zombie song where it's just, I am hell, I am hell. That wasn't for me. I love that song now. So I was aware of the Lace Exoristo album, and I was like, White Zombie, fuck them. And plus, I thought they were the band in Ace Ventura too, but it was Cannibal Corpse. So hearing the screaming and shit like that, just a rah, was not for me at that point in time. So it wasn't until after I got into bands like Pantera and White Zombie that I actually got into death metal and stuff like that a little bit later.
What's funny, Beavis and Butthead will forever be tied to Thunder Kiss 66 for me, because I had a friend in high school, that every time we would see each other, we would walk up to each other and do the but we both did it with like the Beavis and Butthead, because like that's like where we got that. Like we both liked Beavis and Butthead and that song, so we would always see each other and always greet each other that way. I wonder if she would still do that. I gotta find her.
Yeah, it'd be great. It's funny when you walk in there, like run into someone that you haven't seen in like years and years, and then you immediately just, one of you cracks a joke thing. That was something that was 20 years before or whatever.
Oh my God.
Yep, they remember.
And my high school friends, I ran into them a few years ago for the first time in years. And it was like we had just picked up where we left off and all just had a great fucking time. But let's get on to, I'm going to drop my number 3 here. My number 3 is a double album. And I believe firmly that double albums often kill the band. There are very few bands that survive double albums that I know of, especially back then. Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. This was an album that I got in trouble with my mom because I didn't come right home from school, because instead I went and bought the album, and I didn't think she'd notice that I was late coming home, and she was ready to call the cops. But like, I couldn't text her because like it was the 90s.
Yeah.
But Use Your Illusion, and again, the rollout for it, the experience of that album happening, and the rollout and the videos, and like just all of the shit that went into that album for me. And that was an album that taught me how to play the drums. You know, I sat there and listened to that and Nevermind and the White Album and played the drums to those. And that's how I learned to play, you know?
Cool. I remember my brother getting Use Your Illusion 2 for Christmas from my parents, and they didn't realize what they had bought them. And then you listen to a song like Get in the Ring, and they're just he wasn't allowed to listen to that anymore. So, but that's my first memory of that album.
When I used to go driving with my dad, and we'd take turns listening to music, and I put in Use Your Illusion 2. And as we were driving, every now and then a curse word would be about to come on, and I just reach over and turn it down and back up real fast. And then Get in the Ring came on, and I'm just reaching over, and my dad smacks my hand and he goes, "If you're old enough to hear it, I'm old enough to hear it." Yeah. And I was like, fair. So then it's like, Bob Guccione Jr. at Spin What You Pissed Off. It's more pussy than you do. Fuck you. Suck my fucking dick. And it's like, yeah. And my dad's just like, poetic.
Oh, dude, that's hilarious, man.
Yeah. But from then on, I was just, okay, I'm just going to play my music.
Yeah. I can honestly say my parents were pretty cool, man. They may have told me to turn the music down, but they never once told me I wasn't allowed to listen to the music that I chose. It's very awesome.
And that's something I got to give to my dad. My dad is super conservative. And when I was listening to anti-Christian music, he was never like, nope, don't listen to it. It was always, this is why I don't think it's right. This is why I don't believe what they're saying is true. But it was never, that's not allowed in my house. Like, that is something that I always give him credit for. That it was always, we're going to talk about this, not, that's not. My mom was much more like, I don't want you listening to that. And it'd be like, what? I can't hear you over my super loud music.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds about right, man.
What's that you said, Mom, as I'm turning the volume up?
Do you prefer one or the other, number one or number two, or do you kind of look at them both as equally?
So I'd probably say number two, but honestly, it's like, I would love to make the perfect album. In fact, I could do a whole show on making the perfect Use Your Illusion album, right? Because there are some from both albums that I could take off. And if I were to make it into one album, even Get in the Ring probably wouldn't make the cut, because it's a song that's tied to my youth forever, and I love what it was at the time. But is it a great song? Meh. But like Estranged is a fucking masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
And November Rain is a fucking masterpiece. And Coma is, I don't know what it is, but like, yeah, I want to hear it. Like, I fucking loved Coma.
What the fuck is that song My World at the end of Use Your Illusion 2, where he's like trying to do the rap fucking thing?
They were
stepping into my world. This is socio-psychotic state of bliss.
That song was not the final nail, but is probably like the third to last nail in the Izzy Stradlin coffin. Izzy came in, Izzy heard the final version of the album and it closes with My World, and he's like, what the fuck is this? It's like, oh yeah, Axl wanted to rap. And they're like, and he's like, Axl wanted to rap, and he was fucking furious. It was him and Duff were both like, what the fuck is this? But Izzy was the one that was like vocally mad about it.
Yeah, it's, to me, it's not it's not a bad song actually, but it's, when you look at pretty much every other thing Guns N' Roses ever did, it definitely stands out. It's different.
Well, I'd say more. It was a preview of what they were going to become. So like,
yep.
It fits in much better with Chinese Democracy and the two new singles that they released than it does anything they had done before it. So it really was, Axl was kind of telling the band what the new direction was going to be.
I feel like Axl Rose did to Guns N' Roses what Rob Zombie did to White Zombie, and then into his solo career. I was just, because I look at, like, you look at, say, Appetite for Destruction and then the GNR Lies EP, and those just raw, right? Not like, and then you look at the Use Your Illusion albums, and then you look at Astro Creep 2000, and they're just so overproduced and just so fine-tuned.
Yeah, it was a theatrical
and they're fucking great. And I'm actually, I'll say now, I'm not big on the Use Your Illusion 1 album. There's only like 2 or 3 songs that actually do anything for me. But
when's the last time you've listened to it?
A couple of years ago. You're telling me I got to do it again then?
I'm saying, like, probably as an adult, because, like, I'll say right off the top of my head, I haven't listened to it in a couple years, but, like, right off the top of my head, first of all, you have Don't Cry November Rain, you have Right Next Door to Hell, you have Dead Horse, you have Double Talk and Jive, and Double Talk and Jive is one of my favorites on that. It's got Bad Apples, I think that's on that one. That one I kind of throw away. But what's the Right Next Door to Hell? Oh, it has The Garden with Alice Cooper.
Yep.
It has a Garden of Eden, which was a single, which I also feel is kind of one of the ones that I love it, but I'd leave it off if I was doing a combined, you know. But and so there's some there. That's the thing, is that some of my favorite songs are on 1, some of my favorite songs are on 2. Like, you also have Don't Cry on 2, you have Estranged on 2, you have Yesterdays, and
14 years.
14 years, Izzy. Oh, fucking Izzy.
Got a voice, man. Izzy can fucking sing.
And that was Izzy, just like, again, when you talk about My World being that nail, like yet another nail in the coffin, 14 years, here we are recording an album, and I'm going to sing about the lead singer of this band and how much I fucking hate him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's going to sing backup vocals on it.
But it works so well, though. Just
like Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, you know, a song all about how much of an asshole he is.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I love the second album with I would love to take the 2 and make the 1. I'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure ours would look a little bit different if we were to do it.
Maybe. But I mean, there's definitely some great songs on 1 also.
Guns N' Roses is another band where we could do a show just on Guns N' Roses. And I think we'll have to do that at some point. Where we just pick a band and we'll talk about them for an hour.
And they have such a limited career. Like, they have a double album. They have their debut album, which is a fucking masterpiece. Lies is only 4 acoustic songs, and then an EP that it was their demo that they released that got them signed to do Appetite.
Yep.
So it was barely anything new because they were all fucking strung out on heroin. And then they all got clean except Steven Adler, kick him out, do Use Your Illusion, and they just completely, and then they all fucking hate each other. And then they do a cover album, you know?
I don't care what anybody says, that fucking cover album is good, man. My brother bought me that for Christmas when I was in grade 5, and now it's not
Spaghetti
amazing. It's
incident.
not the best thing they've ever put out, but they did some really good versions of some stuff on there. Like
Yeah. Absolutely.
that Since I Don't Have You, like a 50s song, but was it the Honey Drippers or something like that?
And
like that was fucking good.
Shout at the Devil is fucking amazing.
The what is that?
The Stones.
The song by Fear. I Don't Care About You. Like that was fucking good.
I'll have to revisit that one because I haven't listened to that in forever.
It's good.
Because but anyway, so you're number 3.
Okay, so we're gonna go with Obituary, Back from the Dead. Now, I was kind of torn between this or Cannibal Corpse, Gallery of Suicide, which that was the first death metal album I'd ever heard. And I remember listening to that and reading the liner notes and go, wow, this is pure violence. Like, this is just different. And I liked it. But I remember this was the album. This is the second death metal album or band I'd ever heard. And it showed me that the music, because like Cannibal Corpse is just pure chaos, their musicianship. Like, it's just fast and chaos. Their solos are all over here or there. Obituary it's slow, but it's fucking groovy. And I think Trevor Perez is probably one of the best rhythm guitar players out there ever. But this is the first one I heard. The song Platonic Disease would go on definitely any top 5 death metal album or death metal songs for me. They got the song By the Light, which is another killer song. They do at the end of the album a remix with sort of band The Bully Boys or something like that. I don't know who they are outside this remix, but it's their rapping to the song, and it just shows like rap metal fucking works.
It does. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I don't care what anybody
says.
There
needs to be more of it, honestly.
Yeah. And now this is another funny one to me, though, is while I fucking love Obituary, I could sit here and talk about them all day. Their singer, John Tardy, he has more of that higher pitched growl. And that part doesn't do it for me. This is one of those bands where, for the most part, I could listen to, almost preferred if they were instrumental.
Oh, I know. I get what you mean.
But
I don't know Obituary. They're a band that I actually have never really listened to, except back in the early 90s, maybe 89, 90, 91, when I was in 9th grade and first started going to shows, there was this place called the Cell Block. And it was this tiny little venue that was maybe twice the size of my basement here. And my friend's like, yeah, this band is coming through. They're about to blow up. They're called Obituary. And I saw them in just this super tiny space. And that is the most brutal mosh pit I was ever in. I got my ass kicked. And I had sunburn all over my arms. And that fucking hurt. But it was a lot of fun. And I don't even remember the music. I just remember the pit.
I was lucky enough to see Obituary. I went to see them at the Commodore. There was Cryptopsy, Obituary, and then Cannibal Corpse. That was one hell of a show. We got 15 minutes left. We'll move on to
I'll do my number 2. I'm gonna say is a more recent one for me, but an old album, and it's Seventh Son of the Seventh Son.
Yes,
Iron Maiden, with this complete story, with every song just fucking rips, and this song and it just takes you, like, not only is every song an epic journey, but then the whole album is like taking you on this journey. And you got songs like The Clairvoyant and Can I Play with Madness, where they just are fucking playing with like vocal and bass harmonies, and just it's the most harmonious album of theirs probably, and still full of like great melodic fucking riffs and everything, but they just really, I don't know, they just really stepped it up and just really crafted something amazing for that album.
I would say, other than the live version off of the Best of the Beast album of Fear of the Dark, the Clairvoyant might be my favorite Judas Priest song. It's or
Maiden.
Judas Priest. Did I just fucking say it? Slap me through there. Iron Maiden song. Slap me through. Fucking fuck that one up live hard. But they just, yeah, it's one of those higher.
But yeah, no, yeah, it's yeah. The Clairvoyant it is definitely maybe even top 10 for me. But it's one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs. The fucking again, like there's the story within the song, the journey, like the fucking it's fun. Like in my head, I'm hearing "Can I Play with Madness," and I'm not hearing the Clairvoyant, but I'm hearing the bass line in the Clairvoyant. And just like, oh my God, how he just lets it linger and just plays that, and you know, the whole like him staring at the crystal ball and like, yeah.
Yeah, when the time to live, when the time
to die, and the time to meet your mate. There it is.
Fucking right, man.
I kept in my brain. I kept not getting there.
Yeah, no. As soon as you said mentioned "Can I Play with Madness" too, I just think it's like your mind instantly goes into just like, "Can I play with madness?" I just like everybody just their ears started bleeding right there. Bruce Dickinson's gonna send a cease and desist or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. The other one on that album that always stands out is "The Evil That Men Do."
Oh yes.
That like the evil that men do lives on and like the build up to that with like the living on a razor's edge, balancing on a ledge, living on a razor's edge, you know. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, no, that's a badass tune. It's one that I think I'd almost kind of forgotten of, to tell you the truth, but it's yeah. See, that the best thing about, well, not maybe not the best, one of the best though, definitely about doing this show and talking metal is it definitely is going to inspire me to go back and re-listen to a lot of stuff that I know, or it's going to introduce me to a lot of stuff that I didn't already know about.
Yeah, and like folks should go on YouTube and find it was Maiden's second live album. No, their third live album was maybe Live at Donington. That could be wrong. Whichever one it is, it's the album where they were touring for Seventh Son, and it is just a great fucking live show where they do a lot of Seventh Son. In fact, there's also a later show where they do a lot of Seventh Son. That they open up with Moonchild and go into the second song in the album. They do like, and they do the Clairvoyant. They do "Can I Play with Madness," and it's like and it's like a show when they had the full 6-piece. So all the guitar lines are really fully fleshed out and shit too.
Okay, my turn. Okay, so my number 2, I'm gonna go with Life of Agony, The River Runs Red. Now, this is a band that I was aware of through magazines like Hit Parader and Metal Edge and whatnot, and I didn't really have much interest in checking them out. I knew that their singer had quit and that they at some point in time had Ugly Kid Joe's singer singing for them. And then in the first place I moved into on my own, my roommate Diesenbachs, he had this album. It was just a CD. Right, no case or anything, and I knew he told me that it was fucking Life of Agony. I didn't know which album. The song Underground to me was I consider that like my theme song for a couple of years. Now they're talking about they keep on kicking me down, trying to keep me underground. At the time, for the first few years, I thought they were saying on the ground, because I've kind of lived that underdog lifestyle, and just a lot of it was my poor choices. But you know, I just kind of fucking always felt underdog. That song spoke to me, and this to me was one of those albums where I kind of started coming out of that, where music has to be heavy metal has to be heavy, and it's okay for it to be rhythmic, and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
have
yeah.
some crunchy guitars, and just like Keith Caputo, who is now known as Mina Caputo, is one of my favorite singers, man. They can just carry such a tune. And just they have that kind of that Danzig-ish, Pete Steele from Typo Negative kind of echoey vibe to it. And just,
Right.
but when they get in there, just raw, they can kind of scream and growl a little bit
That's
too.
awesome. I actually don't know Life of Agony, so that's something that I'll just need to check out.
Throw that album on there. I think you'll be pleased.
Yeah,
I would absolutely recommend that one.
I will.
And
Which
then
will
through and through is another definite highlight off that album. The song River Runs Thread itself. Oh man, the method of groove. I could, this is what I can go on about. But I'm looking at, we got about 9 minutes left. And,
so yeah, I will drop my number one, the most life-changing metal album to me, was Master of Puppets.
good call.
And it's when my friend was trying to introduce me to heavy metal and show me what it was, the impression I had of heavy metal was loud, banging, screaming music. And that's what I was told it was. And that's what metal was. And when I listened to Puppets, like, it is composed, it is crafted, it is note by note written. You know, there is no errant note on that by any of the musicians. And by that, I mean Cliff Burton, James Hetfield, and Kirk Hammett.
Yeah.
Lars played on that album. And Cliff deserved better. But
yeah, that is a truly great album. To me, I'm a funny guy with Metallica. Like, I've always appreciated what they've done, but I was always a Megadeth guy. And even then, I've only really become a real Megadeth guy in the last maybe just over 10 years. I just, because we never went with the trendy popular music. And in my area, like what just to talk about Pantera being another way of life, while Metallica was kind of the trendier version of that too.
And
them and AC.
That's the thing. So I got this. So when I was given Puppets, the Black Album would have just blown up, right?
Yep.
It would have just come out. You know, they just celebrated the anniversary over the summer. So I got Master of Puppets for my birthday, which is this Thursday, right? So exactly 30 years ago from this Thursday, I got Master of Puppets and got really into Metallica. And then they got to that point where by the time Load came out, I was like, well, I'm over Metallica. Yeah. Because they were just, you know, because the Black Album did just get so huge. And all of my friends that were Metallica fans were in that camp of like, oh, they're too big now, I don't care. And so I was like, oh, okay, so I guess I'm not like following them, you know, like.
Yeah. Gotta hang with the cool kids type thing.
Yeah. But to this day, Puppets is an album that, like, I mean, that just speaks to me when I listen to it, you know, like Puppets just, yeah.
No, it's an example of thrash metal at its finest. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't, like I said, I kind of used to shit on that album, well, Metallica, just out of kind of just, I don't know, just to be a dick, I guess.
Out of love for Mustaine, I get it.
Yeah. Well, and then, so, yeah, but getting into them nowadays is like just about 5 years ago was when I started buying Metallica CDs at a gas station in Hazleton. Town way the fuck about 10-hour drive from here when I was working a contract out there. It's like, oh yeah, okay, start getting back into them.
Yeah, those first 3 Cliff Burton albums are metal masterpieces. Like, and I think that Puppets was really like a crescendo for them. I thought that, you know, I recently saw somebody quote that basically after after the Black Album, they ran out of all of the ideas that Cliff Burton left behind, and that's why they just could never get back on that again. But like, you know, those first 3 albums with Cliff Burton are just fucking quintessential thrash metal, you know?
They're raw.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of my things.
But they're raw, but they were so talented that it's tight and composed, you know?
Okay. Looks
You're
like
number 1.
Okay, my number 1. Okay, I'm gonna go with Marilyn Manson, Antichrist Superstar. A lot of people make fun of this one, but I gotta say that this album, more than any other album, probably changed my life. Like Pantera, White Zombie albums, like bands like that, who the bands themselves have had more influence on my life. A lot of that stuff came out before I was even aware of it. Whereas I was aware of Marilyn Manson before that album came out. And when he came out, just things changed around like the way people like the music you're hearing in school. All of a sudden there's more metal. People start wearing metal shirts. There's two different brands I can think of that each seem to have a new Marilyn Manson t-shirt every day. And it was just, to me, I think that was the first metal that was mine. And kind of
I get that.
My generation, I guess.
I saw in 93, I went to see 9 Inch Nails, and Marilyn Manson was the opener. And actually, I wasn't into it. I actually hated him. I listened to Antichrist Superstar about 5 or 6 years ago and was like, damn, this is really fucking good. I wasn't born with enough middle fingers is one of the greatest fucking lines in music. It's a fucking amazing album. But back then, I just found him to be so fucking repulsive and disgusting. And like, let's face it, he's a shit person. Like you gotta love the art and not the person on this one, because he's a and
that's exactly where I fall. The album is amazing. His music is amazing. He's written good stuff before and since, but like, the person, I wouldn't want to know him.
But the reason I didn't like him is because the first time I saw him, he was opening up for 9 Inch Nails in 1993, and he was a nobody, right?
Yeah.
It was like, that was the tour that blew him up, right? So I went to that, and during it, he started saying, like, I'm looking to meet a 13-year-old boy that I can shove my fist up his ass, and I want to fist a 13-year-old boy. And like, I'm like, yeah, you know, it's theatrics, and it's, you know, it's just fucking theatrics, but like, that's still fucking gross. And like, I'm not here. Like, I just wasn't here for it, right? So a year later, I go to see 9 Inch Nails again, and Marilyn Manson is touring for them again. And now this time Marilyn Manson is fucking huge, you know? And now this time, the first time I saw them, it was a pretty big theater. Now I'm seeing them in a stadium. And again, during his set, he's like, last time I was in Philly, I said I wanted to fist a 13-year-old boy. Well, guess what? Today before the show, someone did, and you can smell my hand and shit. Like, and I'm like, I'm not here for this. Just as like as like a 17-year-old kid who was like all into like, your God is dead and I want to fuck you like an animal and all that shit. I'm also like, you know, but I'm not into like fucking little boys. Like, and I was like 17. They weren't even like, but it's like, you're a grown ass man. And like, that's just fucking gross. And like, and so that really turned me off to him going forward. Like, knowing that it was theatrics, but it was just theatrics I wasn't interested in.
There's certain things you just don't say, and I think I would I would throw that one in that category. I think maybe it's a good thing I never saw him live earlier in life. I got to see him about 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe, and around there. And the only 2 songs he played off that album were Irresponsible Hate Anthem and The Beautiful People. Which 2 fucking great fucking songs.
Beautiful People is amazing. My favorite song on that album is, what's the name of it? Something Tourniquet. Is it just called Tourniquet?
Yep.
Yeah. That song is fucking soul crushing. It is an amazing song.
You know, it's funny because when I was younger, I liked the heavier songs on it. I didn't like at the end. There's a couple. Is it Man That You Fear, Minute of Decay? A couple slower songs where he just kind of sings and slowly and that kind of weird cadence that his voice has. And I hated those songs at first, and then fast forward, say 20 years later, or whatever. Actually, those are almost prefer those to a lot of the other shit that I preferred earlier, just because him as a singer, he's kind of like a Zach Wilde in that he's not a good singer, but somehow when he does sing, it works and it works well.
He does what I do. I mean, he does what I do. When I'm writing a song, I write a song that I can sing. And when I'm singing a cover song, I arrange it in a way that I can sing it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's not that I'm a good singer. It's that I can sing what I write. And he does the same thing. He creates the music that works for his voice. It's working backwards, you know?
Yep.
Like Rob Halford can sing anything he wants that you put in front of him. You know, he has a fucking beautiful instrument. You know, he doesn't have to write to what he can do because he can do anything. Whereas someone like Manson has to write within the realms of what he can do.
Very limited. That makes sense. I never thought of it that way. But
yeah. But yeah, it is 9:02, so we've both got to get jumping off of here. I want to say again, shout out to everybody. Miranda, thank you for showing up. And Ronnie and Madam Sweet Johnny and DP and Hemp with Gigi.
Wet Blankets in there for 420 Green Goddesses hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you all.
Burton Albertan.
Hurton is here.
Yeah.
And I saw Prophet earlier. I saw Nugcraft Brian
in there.
So yeah, thank all of you so much for hanging out with us and listening to us bullshit about some metal. And I will be, you can find me on Your Morning Metal tomorrow. You can find Cariboo all throughout this week doing his thing. You'll be on Tuesdays.
You betcha. And we'll be back. If you're available, Steve, we can bang out another HeadBonger's Bowl next Sunday because I don't have my daughter next weekend. So we should be able to throw that in there.
And I should be free.
Awesome. And with that, everybody, you have a great night. We wanted to be off at 6:00 for the Michigan Bros Grow Show. They started 4 minutes ago. So we're going to bounce so I can head over and watch that. I'd rather be doing that right now at the moment. So,
I'm going to go play D&D.
Fuck yeah. You have fun doing that, brother. And I'll talk to you soon. Everyone have a great night. We'll see you when we see you again. Depends on if you're there for a cannabis fueled shit show or a little heavy metal talk, but sounds like there'll be 4 shows this week. Peace out, everyone.
All right.